After months of preparation, planning, and many sleepless nights packing, the day is finally here and our quest around the world is beginning. No trip is complete without a couple hiccups, right? Well, we started our adventure by having hiccups right out the gate. Our first flight was missed, and there weren't any flights until 2 days after our original departure date. So instead, we decided to reroute through LAX, and we went to Shanghai instead of Beijing, which was our original stop. As you can guess, this made for a very long travel day, which included a 2-hour flight from Seattle and then a short layover in LAX, where we then got on a flight from LAX to Shanghai. That flight was just 14 hours and 15 minutes. No big deal. Because our flight was over 14 hours long, it included 2 meals, lunch not long after we took off, a snack halfway through the flight, and then dinner right before we landed again in Shanghai. The meal choices were pretty good. They weren't anything to write home about, but they definitely kept us full, and that's always a great thing when you're traveling on the spectrum. The best thing about this flight was that it was a 3-3-3 configuration, which meant that we were able to get the whole middle row to ourselves, which is also why there is no beautiful takeoff or landing footage. But our girls were able to stretch out in the middle seats and get some really good sleep, and we were able to take a nap and watch not 1, not 2, but 3 movies while also getting a fair amount of sleep. Once we landed in Shanghai, the next thing was to go through the immigration process. Thankfully for us, we already had 10-year China visas, so our process was quick and easy. However, the transit line was really long. So if you're planning on visiting China more than once in the next 10 years, I highly recommend getting the multiple entry visa. Check out the blog for more information about how to get yours. As I'm sure you can already imagine, at this point we were starting to feel like our journey was never going to end, and sadly it wasn't. When we landed in Shanghai after we collected our luggage, we then needed to take a bus to a different airport in Shanghai called Hongqi. That's because we needed to take the train from there the following morning to get to Beijing. Here lied hiccup number 2 that almost turned bad. We were so exhausted, even though we had some sleep on the flight, that we all fell asleep on the bus ride. Well, we woke up just in time to get off the bus, and as we were getting our luggage, Rue was standing in the doorway. The driver didn't see her and closed the door. We had to bang on the door in order to get her out. We almost lost our child in the airport at Shanghai. Fun times. After that, we headed over to the taxi stand, and as you can see, it was complete and total insanity. We were saying how we hadn't seen lines this long, even at Disney. We finally were able to get a taxi, and we checked into our room at the Intercontinental Hotel. My only regret for this decision is that we should have taken a later train. This hotel was really nice. The beds were super comfortable, and we were able to finally get some much needed sound sleep. We got up bright and early the following morning and headed over to Shanghai Hongqi Railway Station, which is the largest railway station in China. It was complete and total chaos because there was a traffic jam coming into the railway station and we almost missed our train. Thankfully, we were able to run to the train and get on our first high-speed train, which got us to Beijing in a little under 4 hours. The high-speed train was a great way to get us pumped about our upcoming Shinkansen train experience that was going to be happening in Japan, but it gave us a great opportunity to be able to see the Chinese countryside, and they had a food cart with coffee and other food. We didn't know exactly what it was that we were eating, but it was delicious nonetheless. Once our train arrived in Beijing, our driver from Linda Tours met us right out front at the train station. This was great because I was definitely a little stressed out about not being able to speak Mandarin and trying to figure out our way around Beijing. Linda, who runs Linda Tours, was really helpful over email before we arrived in Beijing, suggesting different itineraries and sites that we should see while in Beijing. She offers tours as simple as a quick layover tour to the Great Wall from the airport and back, and as complex as multiple day tours. Because we were going to be in Beijing for a couple of days, we'd opted to do a 2-day tour of Beijing. This allowed for us to be able to see the sights nice and slowly and also be able to get in as much as possible. Be sure to check in the description box below for all the information on Linda Tours. Good morning, tribe! We have officially started our around the world trip and we are in Beijing,
China.
And we have started our journey here at the Temple of Heaven.
Yes, the Temple of Heaven. Yeah!
Our first stop of the day was to the Temple of Heaven. It is one of the great examples of the imperial architecture from the Ming Dynasty. The Temple of Heaven was built from 1406 to 1420, and it served as a venue for annual ceremonies of prayer for good harvest by the emperors of the Ming and Qing dynasties. The most recognizable building in the Temple of Heaven is the tall and circular Hall of Prayer for Good Harvest. This location of where the hall is was determined by the Emperor's Feng Shui masters as the exact point where heaven and earth met. Oftentimes, when people think about Beijing landmarks, they think about the Forbidden City. But did you know that the Temple of Heaven is actually 4 times larger than the Forbidden City, coming in at a whopping 3 million square yards? After the Temple of Heaven, we headed over to Wafujing Street, which is one of Beijing's most busy retail districts. You can also branch off from here and try some interesting snacks. However, it was really cold and we came upon a McDonald's, so we decided that we would just eat there instead. Just coming up the stairs and already, what an improvement. I mean, there are sausages on a burger. Excessive? Maybe. We tried our hardest to stick it out at Wafujing Street, but it just was way too cold. The girls were getting miserable and so were we. So we headed over to catch a acrobatics show. The acrobatic show that we went to seemed to be pretty popular. The tickets ranged from 200 RMB all the way up to 580 RMB, depending on where you decided to sit. The show was probably the only thing that I would say you could skip or opt out of, unless it's just really one of those things that you've been dying to do in Beijing. I can't deny there were definitely some talented artists throughout the show, but for the price, I just don't feel like it was that great of a value, especially because our 5-year-old had to pay for a ticket. At this point, jet lag had definitely started to set in and we could barely keep our eyes open. So we headed over to the Kerry Hotel where we were staying for the next 2 days. This amazing hotel is so great that I had to put it in a completely separate video. So be sure to check out the description box below and the link above so that you can see the full tour of our hotel stay at the Kerry Hotel. Good morning.
Good morning.
This morning we are at the Forbidden City. It is a very brisk and chilly Beijing morning, but we're going to get ready to head in and explore. The Forbidden City is one of the most recognizable landmarks in all of China. But did you know that the Forbidden City is actually one of 3 ancient palaces still standing in modern China? And it's actually the largest ancient palace in the world. Due to its cultural significance and unique beauty, a lot of Chinese and foreign tourists flock to the Forbidden City. It boasts over 14 million visitors annually, and those overwhelming numbers definitely make for really long lines, particularly on national holidays and weekends. We happened to go close to the beginning of the new year when a lot of people were out of work and school, and so it was pretty crowded. Ru joked that the Forbidden City should have been called Land of 1,000 Palaces because every time you went through a new doorway, there happened to be another structure that looked just like a palace. The Forbidden City has 9,999 rooms that live within 980 wooden buildings throughout the property. It is a lot of ground to cover, so make sure that you strap on your good walking shoes and don't be sad if you don't get to see it all. It is quite a lot to cover. We had a little over an hour and a half to visit there, and we still felt like we were rushed through. After leaving the Forbidden City, we got in the car and headed up to the Great Wall of China. The anticipation on the drive up was just electric. I was so excited that I was getting the opportunity to cross something big off my bucket list. Linda recommends going to the Mutianyu section of the Great Wall because it is known to be less crowded. However, on the day that we went, there were still some significant crowds. One of my suggestions to avoid this is to skip the Forbidden City first thing in the morning. Go to the Great Wall to be there first thing in the morning before it opens. That way you can have the wall all to yourself and probably see an amazing sunrise. We made it! Can you guys see it back there? We're at the Great Wall of China, and our guide is getting ready to go buy our tickets. We're going to ride the cable cars up and then take the toboggan down. It has been quite the physical day today between walking at the Forbidden City and then check out this hill. You can't even get a full glimpse, but around the corner it goes down even further, and then Boom. Way up there. Better be prepared. Good walking shoes and lots of water. Because even though it's cold out here, it's a physical, exerting day. So we are headed to Watchtower number 5. So of course we couldn't come all the way to Beijing and not try Peking duck. Lucky for us, the Carey Hotel has a restaurant called The Horizon where they have world famous Peking duck. And let me tell you, it did not disappoint. We had such a great time in Beijing, but sadly it's time to move on. Our next stop is Shanghai. Can you guess where we're going in Shanghai? Let's just say that we had an awesome time. Thanks so much for watching, and in the meantime, be sure to always keep the adventure going. We'll see you in the next vlog. Bye!